Hi, everyone. My name is John Plunkett. I am the Regional Sales Manager of DFI, and I appreciate everybody taking their time to attend the webinar and hear the presentations. DFI is a industrial computer manufacturer. So how does that fit into industrial automation and into the Internet of Things and Industry 5.0? Well, as been mentioned in the initial presentations, you've gone through and you've figured out, your security and how you're going to manage things. You've gone through and figured out, how you're going to handle computational tasks, what type of data you want, what things you need to control. So you've sort of developed your application, but then you need to actually go and implement that into your factory location. You might have a server room that's communicating over cellular, or you might need gateways directly on the manufacturing floor. So each implementation is different, and typically when people are developing their industrial automation systems and technologies, base level computing platforms are not really their expertise. So you would work with somebody like DFI to provide, the physical computing um, infrastructure within the manufacturing facility for that. And that's where we come in, and where we can provide a tremendous amount of flexibility in terms of the choices you can make so that you can have the best solution. So I just wanted to talk briefly about that, just highlight some areas that we have expertise in, show you some use cases so you can figure out, how that might fit into your particular implementation. And then just go through that. So just briefly about DFI. We are a fastly growing company. We're based out of Taiwan. We actually did 472 million last year, so we've grown, over double in the last 2 years, even despite all the component shortages and things that happen. The product lines that we mainly focus on are industrial motherboards, computer modules, computer systems, and flat panel PCs. Any of those or all of those could be worthy to be put into the application that you have. And what separates these from, say, a commercial grade or a server grade motherboard is that all of our products are going to have a very long life cycle. So they're going to typically be available for 15 years. So once you've developed your software, you know that your system that you have is not going to change. And if you implement, a system that's similar in a different location, or if you have a failure and need a replacement, you know that you're going to get the same exact system and not have to adjust your software. Factory automation is still the biggest segment of the industrial and embedded computing space that we deal with. So I just wanted to quickly point that out. So it's a very fast growing area. And like I said, it's, we're sort of the very baseline infrastructure for areas where people typically don't have the expertise. And we can provide that to you to make sure you have the best implementation possible. So I just want to go through some difficult things. So here's just a general, diagram of what you would see in a typical application. As I've mentioned, you've probably already either developed or sourced the application. You've figured out the types of connectivity you need, whether that's, going back to a server room, or if you need direct access through a gateway on the shop floor. You've figured out all the sensors that you need, on the right side here, and you have an idea of the base computing platform that your applications are going to work out. Basically, if you can think of this blue box as the hardware that enables all of this to sort of work together. So what would be some of the things that we could provide to help implement our systems into your industrial automation environment the best way. As I mentioned, they're industrial, so they support DC voltages, either industrial wide voltage. We can also support 48 volt DC, but that's typically telecommunications. But we can handle whatever power requirements you have for the system, so that's not an issue. And so here's just an example of the range of products that we would have. Sort of like if you're in just a very edge application, we have, very, very small form factor boards. This board is actually only 1.8 inches and can go into a super tiny box. And then we can go all the way up to, a server class motherboard type of situation that you could install FPGA cards or multiple graphics cards for that computational power that we discussed before. So I'm just going to go through some examples of implementations just to give you some ideas of how you can implement things on the shop floor and implement your system. So here's just a real basic idea of the different functionalities that you might need an industrial PC actually, in this environment. It could be for, controlling a robot or an automatic vehicle. It could be just as a gateway for remote management or data upload. It could be, a device that does the computing and logs data or machine vision. So all these functions within the industrial and automation environment are things that we can provide systems to support. So here's just a simple example of a data logger. Here's you have a server that has that our unit here is in the middle. It can transfer data to your server environment over Wi-Fi. Here's sensors, and we can provide the connectivity out to those sensors. And you can have a flat panel to provide control over that. As on the shop floor, this is a ARM-based application, so that would be just like one sort of simple block diagram to look at. If you wanted to have a machine vision system, we have larger systems that can support, a full-size PCI Express graphics card, has GPIO, can run DC voltages, and can interface to whatever type of camera that you have. So that might be another example. This is still actually a really small box. It's basically just big enough for the video card, but we can support any form factor. If you wanted to do just data transfer or control a vehicle, our baseboards will, have all the connectivity that you would need to support whatever function you needed to control within that device. So here's just an example of one of our boards that went into an automatic vehicle. We used one of our mini ITX motherboards. It was an Intel-based platform, and some of the special features that they needed was a significant amount of COM ports and USB ports. So we were able to provide a solution tailored exactly to run the software within the vehicle that they needed. Here's a service robot. Again, this is a 3.5 inch SBC. So, part of the big takeaway is that we support a huge amount of form factors, and oftentimes, the robot or the device or the machine that you're using already has most of the designs, and you sort of need to figure out a way to fit a PC in there that will also support the environment. And sometimes, that's very limited in space or has very high temperature or humidity requirements. And we can find a solution that will support all that, and so provide exactly the right solution, even if the person didn't necessarily consider those factors up front. Here's an example of where we use a module, a Q7 module that would have a baseboard that would run into a robotic arm that was used to teach people how to use this type of equipment. It was in a very harsh environment, so it was ruggedized for shock and vibration and temperature. Here's an example of a robotic system. This used a COM Express module. advantage of Common Express modules is that the main computing aspect of it goes on a separate board, which plugs into a baseboard. If this unit were to fail, or if you just wanted to upgrade the system, you can just unplug this one module and then stick it back in. So it provides field replacement capability as well as future proofing for additional power in the future. Here's another example where we, had a high temperature environment for a fully and automated material handling system for a factory. And that used one of our embedded systems. So one of our boards inside here, we can tailor the I/O connections to your application for that example. So a lot of these are similar. So this is just another example of a, molded robot, a plastic injection system. We can also work in very, very harsh environments where there's lots of shock and vibration. So this was, a vibration analyzer that used a very high-end PC with extended temperature, additional resistance to shock and vibration, and still had a lot of I/O. Here's an example of an edge system just using a standard rack mount computer, which is still available. So, if you have that type of space and have a system, we can support that type of environment as well. So basically, whatever your computing needs is sort of for the base platforms to run your software, we can provide that. We have a very wide range of horizontally oriented base products that will fit into most applications depending upon your environment, the form factor you can support, the capabilities you need, your I/O requirements. But we also can do very customized systems. About 50% of what we sell has some level of customization, and that can go from just changing the I/O ports or small modifications like that to complete ground up designs. So we sort of provide sort of the glue at the very entry level of an automation system, and we can tailor whatever solution you need so that you can take what you've developed and put that onto the shop floor. So with that, I'll finish, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.